I, female, 35, am infertile. My ex-husband and I tried everything to have kids, but it never happened. He divorced me, went and married someone younger who was able to give him a kid. And from what I gather, they're expecting a second child together. It hurts like crap seeing someone else have what I couldn't. I sometimes get frustrated with myself and my family, blaming myself for everything. I turn to my friends for support, especially Alicia. She's in the same infertility boat as me, but she and her husband are currently trying IVF, hoping it'll work. Alicia asked me to help pay for her upcoming IVF cycle. I agreed to write her a check for $12,000. I really wanted to help her, and the money came with no strings attached. I wrote the check and gave it to her last week. She was very appreciative of it. The next day, I got a sudden message from a mutual friend, Carol, with a screenshot of her conversation with Alicia. It turns out she and Alicia were talking about the next IVF cycle, and Alicia said that she hoped the cycle would work because she didn't want to end up divorced and have her husband go marry someone younger and have a baby with them and another one on the way, and she's alone without a family at 35. She's 32. I was stunned and hurt. I knew she meant me here, but I didn't confront her. I simply contacted my bank and canceled the check. In the evening, Alicia called me to ask why I canceled the check, and I told her. She went crazy saying she didn't mean it that way and thought this was a somewhat inside joke between desperate and fertile women. She came over with her husband the next day, begging me to write another check, but I refused. An argument ensued, and her husband thought I wasn't being supportive of her, like when she supported me throughout my struggles. She left crying, and we hadn't talked since then. Her husband keeps reminding me, while repeatedly calling Carol a venomous snake, of the date of the next cycle, saying that they can't have it after I took the money that was supposed to pay for it back. Some friends think I'm being oversensitive. Carol's on my side, telling me to tell them to go kick rocks, but I feel so bad about it. What I've done just might damage our 15 years of friendship. Maybe I shouldn't have canceled it, but I just felt so offended by what she said about me and how she basically mocked my unfortunate circumstances. So, am I the idiot? Holy smokes, not the idiot. $12,000, no strings attached? Yeah, I'd be kissing your butt. You would even be my future kid's godparent, and I would wake up grateful for your existence every day. Bashing you to another friend behind your back? Heck no. I would be out there calling your praises from the rooftops. Alicia doesn't deserve your friendship, let alone your money. OP, she damaged 15 years of friendship. She used you as the butt of an inside joke. Despite knowing how hard this was for you, she hasn't taken any accountability for her wrongdoings, and she and her partner are blaming Carol for what she said. Their behavior afterwards shows no remorse, just bullying you and Carol. Manipulation via guilt tripping. Your friends can hand over their cash since they think you're oversensitive. You're not. Bullies always blame the victim, and it seems like you know a lot of them. So how many others she shares that joke to? You'll never know. Did they support you through your struggles with no strings attached money? If they did, then I'd say give them back exactly what they gave you and tell them you're done with them. On the other hand, if they offered emotional support, then that's what they can expect back. Even if you were to turn around and write them another $12,000 check, your friendship is forever ruined. Just keep your money. You can make more, better friends. It sounds like Carol was looking out for you. There are others out there who are not two-faced like Alicia is. I was recently a bridesmaid for my best friend, her only bridesmaid, so many of her bridal duties fell to me. We'd been best friends since I was a teen, so I was fine with all this work. Quick info, I have health issues that lead to extreme fatigue as a symptom. The day before the wedding, I basically single-handedly set up her reception while she talked with some family and friends, which was fine. As I was wrapping up, she told me she needed my help sewing a button on her wedding dress as her aunt hadn't fully finished the alterations. I told her, of course I'd do this, and she said she'd call up her aunt to walk me through what needed to be done. I had a bad feeling about this, as it's only a button that hardly needs a walkthrough, but I put it down to my best friend being overly worried as it's her wedding dress. It wasn't one button. I got to her home and we got on the phone with her aunt. It's 6 buttons, the clasp to attach her cloak, which needed to be hemmed, and the corset lacing required adjusting. I was angry, but not at my friend. I figured she didn't know how bad it was. It had been her aunt's job to alter the dress. A little quick info, she bought a cheap dress figuring aunt could alter it. I fixed the dress, having to stay up until 3 a.m. to do so. Then I had to be up at 6 a.m. to be ready for the wedding. After we were ready for the wedding, my friend told me she'd forgotten to ask me to do this yesterday and asked me if I'd sew Marvel patches on her garter belt for her as a surprise for her fiancé. I agreed, albeit unhappily, as my hands were in agony from sewing into the early morning. So we got through the wedding. My friend promised me that I could go back to nap before the reception this evening, as there were a few hours between lunch and reception. That's basically all that was keeping me going. But then plans change, and she needs me to stay with her and not go back to nap. So I stay as I don't want to leave her alone and drink way too much coffee to try and remain semi-human, even though my body aches and I'm exhausted. Despite this, I'm struggling to stay awake at the reception and manage until the food is served and eaten and the first dance happens. I figure I've seen all the important parts and go to my friend, telling her I need to go home now to sleep, as I literally cannot stay upright anymore. She got upset at me, saying how I wasn't allowed to leave and she needed me by her side, how I was her only bridesmaid, so I had to stay until the very end in case she needed me, and how I needed to greet guests who turned up late. I got upset at this and told her to get over herself, pointing out all that I had done for her and that I loved her, but there were limits with my health concerns. So I left and slept for about 14 hours, waking up the next day with a migraine and various aches. She's upset, thinking I ruined her day and that I'm selfish for not putting her first, that I was needed by her side, and how a real friend would prioritize her day. So am I the idiot for leaving early? She used you as a seamstress, wedding decorator, planner, and a freaking doorman and greeter. You didn't ruin her day. She ruined it by using and abusing you. Not the idiot. And I guarantee you avoided another late night as head of the cleanup crew. I'm sorry, what crew? It would have just been her. When I got married, I had one bridesmaid as well. She literally walked down the aisle and then held my bouquet and engagement ring until I took them off her. If I'd known I had a virtual slave for the day, I would have utilized her much better. That dress should not have been left to the last minute, nor the garter. She should have asked some friends or a groomsman to help set up, and she could have asked her mom or aunt or other friends to greet late guests. To expect one person to do all that while all she had to do was smile and have fun is unreasonable. I wouldn't consider this individual a friend. My younger son is 22 and the older one is 27. I'm close to both of them. The older one is married and his wife is pregnant. They both have good jobs and own their own home. However, she makes more money than him and is currently on maternity leave. My younger son is a student teacher. He loves what he does, but finances are tight for him. If he bought a house, the mortgage payment would be less than his rent, and he'd be building equity. Although this is his dream, right now, he can't get approved because of income, and he needs more saved for a down payment plus closing costs. I told my son that I would co-sign his loan because I knew he'd be able to pay as he always pays his rent. I also said I would pay $8,000 towards his down payment, leaving him with probably just a few thousand more of the down payment and then the closing cost. My family thinks I'm showing favoritism to my younger son. When my older son and his wife bought their house, they received no financial assistance from me. This is true, but they quickly qualified for their loan and didn't need a co-signer because of their dual incomes. They had the money saved for their down payment and closing and didn't need the help from me. I gifted them antique furniture that belonged to my mother and bought them a washer and dryer. I don't know the value of the furniture, but the washer and dryer set was over $2,000. My family said I should split the $8,000 and give half to my older son and his wife for the baby and half to my younger for his house. I remember how expensive babies are, but I don't think they need that $4,000. My daughter-in-law will open an education savings account for the baby when she's born, and I intend to make annual contributions to that. That will be more beneficial in the long term than a one-time gift of an unneeded 4K that'll just get spent on toys or baby furniture. Still, my cousin made me worried when she said my decision might impact my relationship with my older son and future granddaughter. I don't believe in fairness for the sake of fairness. It's better to give what is needed when it's needed, rather than constantly balancing accounts. Am I being an idiot? Not the idiot. Please don't let anyone make you feel bad for helping your child. My parents have helped each of their children at different times in different ways. I never got out the calculator to ensure my sibling didn't get more than me. We're different people with different experiences in different situations. Fairness for fairness' sake is moronic. You are the idiot. I don't think it's really fair to compare a 22-year-old to a 27-year-old. Was your older son in a much better position at 22? Or is he okay now because he's worked hard without help for 5 years? You need to speak to your eldest and see how he feels. Your family isn't wrong that this could be viewed as favoritism and cause issues. Exactly. Also, why does your 22-year-old son need to buy now? Even if he's still a student, shouldn't he wait until he's qualified and settled in a job? What happens if he can't get a job within commuting distance when he qualifies, or if a great opportunity comes up in a different town or country? I don't think you're the idiot for wanting to help your son, either of them, but I do think that settling down at 22 while still a student isn't necessarily the best idea. He's still young. There's so much world out there to see and so much life yet to experience. So keep the offer for 5, maybe 10 years' time. I, 19 male, had a job taking care of 2 toddlers and a dog and doing light housework 4 days a week for a single mom who got my contact info from a business card I had posted in my dad's pediatric therapy office. Since the weather started warming, the dog has been shedding like crazy. Like, I would vacuum the couch, and the next day it would look like I hadn't. I would lightly tug on the dog's hair and would pull out huge tufts. The dog's been scratching all the time, etc. My dad's dog had a double coat like theirs, and one morning when I was leaving for work, I packed his brushing tool in my bag. Then when the kids were napping, I spent a full hour outside brushing the dog. The dog seemed to enjoy being brushed, and after an hour there was a huge pile of hair that had been brushed out. So before I vacuumed it up, I sent the mom what I thought would be a funny text saying, "Brush the whole new dog out of the dog's coat." Looking back, I realized that maybe I should have asked first, but at the time it seemed like something within the scope of caring for the dog. The mom went ballistic. She called me yelling, saying that by brushing the dog and not letting the hair fall out on its own, I was causing harm to the dog. She said I was an idiot, and she couldn't believe she trusted me with her kids and that today was my last day. I was extremely upset because I had been with the family for 3 months, and she had never yelled at me like that before. I left as soon as she got home because she was still fuming. I immediately lined up a job with another family, and I'm supposed to start Monday. The mom who yelled at me called me 2 days later, saying she was sorry about the misunderstanding and that firing me was an overreaction. I told her I was no longer available, and she started crying about how hard it was to find a new sitter for special needs kids. Her kids are autistic and have therapy at my dad's office. When I stood firm, she started texting my dad and asking him to do something. My dad is annoyed at being dragged into this, and while he respects my decision, he wishes I would keep watching her kids for a short time to keep the peace. I hate that I put anyone in an awkward position, but I also don't want to work for someone like that. Am I the idiot? Edit, my dad is a physical therapist. Not the idiot at all. Your dad is kind of lousy for putting this on you. He's a therapist, and he can't see the mother's instability and how it endangers you? I mean, if this is how she reacts to a completely normal thing to do with a dog, God forbid anything ever goes wrong with one of her kids. You're an adult, and accusations against you could lead to legal problems. Stay far away from her. What OP did was not only a normal thing, but a lovely thing to do with a dog. It made the dog so much more comfortable, and it was a ton of work for OP to do. And it was extremely kind of him. Dogs need to be brushed. No idea why she thought the dog's coat should just fall out naturally. I have an Akita, and I can vacuum 3 times a day. If you don't brush the dog, it could get hot spots. This is not a person you want to continue working for. I wouldn't want to go back to work and have her accusing me of things based on other crazy beliefs. She probably called back to beg him when she realized how much less fur there was around the house to clean up. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She was abusive. Stand firm and don't go back. And shame on your dad for wanting to send you back for more to keep the peace. Don't reward her terrible behavior. Oh, and you didn't put anyone in an awkward position. Her actions did. My female teen, mom and dad, got divorced 5 years ago. My parents have 50-50 custody of me, but I mostly live with my mom and spend a lot of my weekends and summers at my dad's house. I have my own room at my dad's house, and I'm allowed to lock it when I'm not there because the woman, 27, he lives with, has 2 young kids, and they went into my room and wrecked some of my stuff when she first moved in. My dad replaced everything, told her that my room was off limits without my permission, and got me a lock with a key that only he and I had. My dad, 47, seems happy to spend time with this woman and her kids, but he still makes time for me and makes me a priority. When he got a new TV, I got the old one, and he mounted it in my room. One thing though, this woman likes to have other mommies and kids over for playdates. That's fine. Maybe she and my dad will get married, and she has every right to have guests over. The problem is that sometimes she expects me to watch all the kids while she and her friends sit outside and drink wine or whatever. She even tried leaving them with me and going to brunch with her friends. Not okay. My dad has told her to knock it off. He told me it might be nice if I chose to help, but that I wasn't obligated to help. So yesterday and today were days off from school, so I was over at my dad's for a long weekend. My mom was having a party, and I didn't want to be around. So I was in my room when I heard a knock. There she is with 4 kids. She wants me to entertain them while she talks to her friends. I say no thank you. She insists and leaves the kids in my room. So I say I'm watching a movie, it's called Ready or Not, and it's kind of gory. Not super gross or anything, just not meant for little ones. It starts out with a pretty wedding, but kids are already bored because it isn't a cartoon or a Marvel movie. A few minutes later, the gory starts, and the kids run to their mom. She comes back inside and yells at me for scaring the kids. She says she's going to take my TV away. I laughed and closed the door. She was mad and told my dad I was a disrespectful brat and that my TV should go in the kids' playroom. He said no, but he talked to me and said I could have handled it better. He isn't mad, but he's disappointed. So am I the idiot for using a scary movie to keep her kids out of my room? Not the idiot. Your dad's partner expects a free babysitter whenever you're around. So overall, that's a tame way of handling unwanted babysitting. She and your dad need to talk about boundaries and expectations of a blended family. The only person your dad should be disappointed in is himself for letting his girlfriend get away with what she does for this long. You're not her free babysitter. This woman thinks she can force OP by ignoring her and her father's no and being persistent. OP was smart with the movie, but ideally, she should have said no, referred her to the dad, and walked away and closed the door. The more OP finds creative solutions, the more likely it is something will backfire, and this woman will take advantage to prove that she's in the right.